What's up, guys? Welcome back to Spoiled Ryan TV. Today, I'm going to be reacting to a video that has been a long time coming. I know I say that a lot, but this one in particular is something that I wanted to touch on myself because it's become a very hot topic right now. Everyone has their own opinion. Everyone has their reasons for supporting a specific side of the argument. But from what I understand, this teenager right here, I'm not sure how old he is, comes up with the best argument that anyone has heard. I think this video has like 1 million views. I'm not sure when it came out. It came out recently because I saw a notification for it. Yeah, so it came out about a month ago. And it went viral almost immediately. It has 1.2 million views in just about a month. So it's probably going to have millions of views by the time you guys watch this, depending on when you watch it, like a year or two from now. Um, you know, this guy just lets it all out, and he speaks, with such conviction and clarity that even the side of the argument that is against him can, at the very least, say that he argued his point very well. So I'm gonna shut the fuck up, and we're gonna hear what this guy has to say. Thank you guys for coming, or thank you guys for watching.
Well, thank you all for staying so long to hear us out. I'm here to oppose this bill as well. One of the most concerning things for me when I first saw this bill was the speed that was brought forward and the timely manner in which it revealed itself. I found it to be uncanny parallel political thinking when 3 states can pass a very similar bill, or introduce a very similar bill within the span of 2 months directly after a midterm election. Now, we're told by our representatives and some of the congresswomen that spoke earlier and some of the senators, and they say that we ran on this pro-choice platform. We owe this to our constituents. But I followed the midterms pretty thoroughly, and I didn't see a single person talk about this bill in the midterms. This bill was not ran on. The concept of pro-choice was ran on. Now, this bill takes Roe v. Wade and expands it to a point where we don't know what the repercussions of that on our society are. This bill pushes it to a point. It doesn't solidify it into our state rights. It pushes the bill to a place where it's never been before. And we don't know the repercussions that that'll have on our society. Also, I think that there's, like Julius was saying, a false sense of urgency that we're going to lose Roe v. Wade, as if there's this malicious agenda to undercut what's been written into our Constitution. I just haven't seen anything that relates to that. As some of you guys have said today, that there are no cases on the ballot. And I think Representative or Senator Lombardi said it pretty well. He says that he's a smart guy, he can see it coming, and if it sneaks up on it, he'll catch it before it gets there. So I don't think that it's something that we have to live like a boogeyman, like it's gonna get us. And also, one of the concerning things that I saw when some of these people were up here earlier talking is we see the semblances of voluntary eugenics, where we're talking about desirable traits, whether a child will be born poor. Well, it's the quality of life will be born if the baby has into a low-income society. Well, we're talking voluntary eugenics, where we're deciding quality of life. And for me, the fear is that voluntary eugenics will slowly slip into state-demanded eugenics, where if you don't reach a certain income, if you don't reach a certain IQ, it's just like the founder of Planned Parenthood says, they want to, from the beginning, Planned Parenthood has had a strict plan for forced eugenics. Margaret Sanger was a firm believer in birth licenses. She didn't even believe in the fundamental human right of motherhood. And now we're told that, oh, well, the organization has changed. It's new people. They don't think that anymore. Yet what is all of this that we're seeing now? They're saying that, oh, we're compassionate because we don't want the poor family to have the baby. Oh, we're now before it was hatred. We didn't want the poor people to have babies because we thought they weren't good for society. But now we're so loving. We don't want them to have the babies because it's not good for them. The baby won't be happy. The baby will have a poor quality of life. And we're told to say, well, you have the same thing that you've been saying for years, yet now you're loving about it. And it's very hard to accept that. It's very hard to look forward and say that, okay, New York passes this, Virginia passes this, Rhode Island proposes it, all within the span of 2 months. It doesn't seem like this is representing the Rhode Island people. It seems like a calculated attack on life by the DNC in all of their states. And I think that if we push this forward, if we expand the liberties, if we leave the moral justifications up to the doctors who were not elected, so if we have a doctor choosing who lives, a doctor choosing who dies, I think it's important to remember that some of the most morally corrupt people in our history have been doctors. We don't even trust our pharmaceutical companies, yet we trust doctors to decide when it's in the best interest to have a baby. And then we have another doctor coming up, and I'm sorry if I'm going long, but we have a doctor who's an OBGYN coming up, and he's saying to us that as a doctor, he doesn't know when a woman's healthy, the woman knows. That's a preposterous claim. Why should he be a doctor then? If I go to a doctor and he tells me that only I know when I'm healthy, then what did you go to school for? What am I paying you for? What is your purpose in society? Like, it's such a delusional disconnect from reality to say that only a woman knows what is healthy for a woman. Yet, on the same strand, we tell her thousands of things that aren't healthy for her. You can't drive 100 miles an hour. You can't take heroin. You can't do many things. We tell people so many times what is and what isn't healthy. But when we get here, men especially are told that we can't talk. That when the children are dying, that when we see these things happening, that we have to sit down and be quiet. Yet we have the same gumption to look back into civilizations that commit genocide and say, where were you? Why weren't you standing up? Where were all the people in Nazi Germany? Well,
He's
I wonder
right.
if maybe
That's exactly.
people will look back on us that way and say, where are the people standing up?
That's
And we'll say,
absolutely
well,
right.
gee, we were told that we didn't have voices. We were told that we didn't even know morality. As men, we couldn't speak up about our children, about our futures, about who we are leaving in this planet.
That's
I
exactly
think it's
right.
very important that this bill be slowed down. We don't need to pass this. As many people have said, there's no immediate danger to, as they say, female reproductive rights, the freedom. There's so many terms. It's mind-boggling to keep up with all these terms. I say we just slow down, keep all the terms out of it, and look at what is good for Rhode Island. Just because you ran on pro-choice doesn't mean that people want this. 71% are for abortion, 73% are against late-term abortion.
Okay. So I wanted to stop it like a whole bunch of times while he was talking. I know you guys probably saw me, like, get ready to say something, but I didn't want to interrupt him because he's making all these good points. The same thing happened when I did my reaction to the Candace Owens statement. Um, so many things I want to say here. I'm not trying to get political here, even though I'm reacting to a political argument. Um, he made a lot of good points, a ridiculous amount of good points. I want to focus on a few that I heard him saying, and the biggest one here, because this is what a lot of these MGTOW channels are trying to say, what a lot of these pro men channels are trying to say. A lot of channels on YouTube who try to expose women, how they behave, and all their terrible actions. The biggest conspiracy they believe is coming to fruition in America is pretty much trying to dehumanize men or trying to neuter men in some way, shape, or form, take away their masculinity, trying to make men weak, take away their voice, shut them up. And they do this in a whole bunch of different ways through human resources, through the threat of losing their job, through the threat of harassment or Me Too. All these different facets of life are being used to scare men, turn men into cowards because they're so afraid of offending someone that they literally become all like beta males. They're just afraid to even interact with women. A lot of men will literally run away from any type of situation with a woman because he's afraid that she's going to report him or she's going to do something to him to make him lose his job or embarrass him or shame him or do something. And then women complain that men don't approach them, or women complaining that men don't have the courage to interact with them. Why do you think? Because all your sisters or whatever, because I know women call other women their sisters. Your sisters are pretty much on witch hunts, trying to emasculate them and create this hierarchy. Because what I'm really starting to see is that certain men who are physically attractive or have money and power, they're allowed to pretty much say whatever they want. The Donald Trumps of the world, things like that. But the men who don't have any money or power, or who don't look a certain type of way, have like a certain swagger to them, or certain charisma to them, they're seen as creeps or losers, and their voices are just like, thrown to the wind. Or though women will use like all these tactics, like I said, human resources, things like that, to make them feel just like nobody, just like nothing. And then it leads to just men, a majority of men, not all men, a majority of them, like 60% out of the 100% are being turned into beta male losers, providers, beta male providers, who just believe that they have to support women, provide them, provide for them, and then just keep their mouth shut. Don't say anything offensive. Just, oh man, just like agree with women, to support them, girl power, all this shit. You see like a lot of men at these feminist rallies and these SJW rallies, and it's sad. It's really sad, guys. Really, really sad. But as far as the abortion argument goes, I do believe that you know men's voices when it comes to this are being shut out as well. But the reason here is that because it's a woman's body, or this is happening in a woman's body, men have nothing or don't have a right to say anything about it because it's taking place in a woman. It should be a woman's decision. It should be a woman's perspective, or a woman's right to do whatever she wants with the baby or with the pregnancy or whatever. Forget what a man says. Forget a man's opinion. If it doesn't come from a woman, then it doesn't matter. Even if it does come from a woman, if the woman is supporting abortion, or a woman is supporting killing kids, or doing something else to the pregnancy, then she's like an agent for the men, and she should also be shut down and booed and kicked out. A lot of women don't realize what happens when you get an abortion, like the horrific things that's done to that baby, or that was growing inside of you. You know, Even if you don't want to call it a baby, because some women don't believe it's a baby to a certain amount of weeks, whatever you want to call it, the entity that's growing inside of you, you don't understand what happens when a doctor has to perform an abortion on you. It's I'm not going to get into it here, guys. It's extremely graphic. You can Google it for yourself. You can research it. It's extremely brutal, disgusting process that's done when a woman gets an abortion done after a certain amount of weeks. And even within like the first few weeks, you still like have to put all these drugs and chemicals inside of you that essentially kill whatever is growing inside of you. Kind of like it's an alien growing inside of you, and you have to like send like this nuke into your body to neutralize it. It's truly, truly horrific and truly disgusting. I think the best way to go about the abortion situation is simply practice safe sex. Use a condom. People will say, "Oh, condoms break sometimes." It's a rare occurrence. Um, you know, go on the pill. You know, have safe sex. Just practice safe sex. Don't even get to the point where you're creating a person, because once you get to that point, you're bringing another person, or soon to be another person, into the situation, and then you're going to get upset at the child for being created, even though it was your fault, unless you were obviously raped, which does happen from time to time. But usually it's consensual sex that leads to this, and they decide to take the risk of the guy pulling out in time or whatever. So 99.9% of the time when a woman gets pregnant out of nowhere, it's because they were not practicing safe sex. So this child has to be killed, or this what's growing inside of you has to be killed, because you couldn't just practice safe sex, or you couldn't choose the right person. It's really, really sad. It's really, truly sad. And I'm not going to throw in my perspective on the argument, as far as what I believe about abortion, killing kids, this, that, and the third. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. Try to be civil with each other, because I know there's going to be two sides to this. Be as civil as you possibly can. But yeah, like, safe sex is the best way to avoid pregnancy. Um, well, technically, not having sex at all is the best way to avoid pregnancy, but that's the next best thing. Um, he was talking about eugenics here. Um, I'll let you guys talk about that yourselves. Some people believe that certain people shouldn't have children because a majority of the single motherhood or the large amount of babies being born are being born in urban areas, areas with low income, because for whatever the reason, sex in these specific areas is a lot more chaotic. Um, Single motherhood is more common, a lot more common, and then you see in like the upper class neighborhoods, it's usually like a family, like father, mother, and then the brothers and sisters. Everyone, the family sticks together. So the mother and father are usually together in most situations in upper class or extremely rich neighborhoods. Um, I'm not going to get into the reasons for that, but they should be more or less obvious. And then in the lower income neighborhoods, single motherhood is the thing to do. It's a path to go down. Um, we can talk about that for hours. I'm not going to. I'm trying my best not to make this video too long, but um, the eugenics argument is pretty much saying that people with not a lot of money shouldn't be allowed to have children, and then, excuse me, and then usually you should only have children when you have reached a certain level of income. And I can see the argument there. I'm not going to get into it here, but I understand that as well. And then of course the whole debate between the doctor, the doctor's opinion, and then what a woman wants is always in conflict as well, because the doctor will say one thing, the woman will say another thing. The woman will say, I may not know much of anything, but this is my body, so therefore I should make the final decision. Which is, it's a logical argument, but what about the father? What about the other person who created the child? Because it takes two to tango. What about what he thinks? And then of course he's explaining that now all this pressure is being put on the woman, whether she wants it to be put on her or not, because what society is saying is that a woman should have the final word, and even a doctor, especially if it's a man, he should just keep his opinions to himself, and just go somewhere and mind his business, because at the end of the day, it's what a woman wants. Women are always right. Women can make the right decisions for themselves, even though they don't know much of anything about the abortion process or how a pregnancy works. It's surprising. It'll surprise you guys to know, or surprise you guys to find out how little people know about the pregnancy process, how it works. How a child develops, this, that, and the third. A majority of the women getting pregnant don't know anything about what's going on inside their bodies, and that needs to change as well. But we're gonna end it here. This guy made so many good points. You guys should watch this for yourselves. I'm gonna see if I can leave a link to it in the description. Watch it as many times as you need to. And again, yeah, let me know in the comment section what you guys think, and I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, peace.